Ladies and gents, welcome to the first episode ever of the Truth Hurts podcast. This is an idea that myself and my friend Marvin, he actually came to me about it, have had for a while now. We always have very in-depth, very detailed discussions regarding everything, debates about everything, whatever it may be. We like talking to each other, putting our thoughts out there and hearing each other out, and sometimes changing each other's perspective, or learning to approach each other in situations in different ways. It's always good to communicate. So it's basically what this podcast is us putting it on a platform, putting it out there for others to tune into, maybe learn from us, maybe listen with us, maybe hopefully debate with us. Comment sections on any platform is open, that is for sure. We would love suggestions, we would love feedback, and if you do enjoy the video here on YouTube, please leave us a like. It would mean the world, and show us some love by subscribing and following on the other platforms that we will create in the future. And this is not a formal intro at all. We will be getting a formal intro done with myself and him, and we do plan on having guests along, so it's just going to be a good journey, and I appreciate anybody who follows us along the way, shows us support in any way you possibly can. But without further ado, we'll get into the podcast. But just remember, we are no experts. We are two regular Joes, and we are just speaking the truth, ladies and gentlemen. And if you hear something that upsets you, well, the truth hurts. All right, Marv. So we're going to discuss Men's Mental Health Week and mental health in general. I know you feel very strongly about the subject, as you are a man of service. There's staggering numbers that kind of correlate, so I know you feel strongly about some things, and we've been seeing some things that kind of trigger us.
So just looking right here, so Men's Health Week was started in the United States by the U.S. Congress in 1994 to heighten awareness of preventable health problems and encourage early detection and treatment of disease among men and boys. But that's just men's health. And then they had the Men's Mental Health Month, which is in June, and then obviously we're in Men's Mental Health Week. So a week and a month to decide what we're going to do here about men. That's all. Like, not any other day. Just this 1 month and this 1 week to really emphasize and hit it home.
Well, because, people only get depressed 1 month out of the year. Not depressed every day or anything.
No, clearly not.
Apparently not to society. You're not allowed to be. Which, I'm a big firm believer. I'll always tell you. If you feel a way, just talk about it. Talk to anybody. Feel how you feel. Don't try to mask stuff and hide it. I just think it's kind of a shame that they pick certain times to highlight it, how that's not very normal. Not just in men, but, people in general.
Yeah, think about it. We have Pride Month, not to take away for what it actually is, but that should be celebrated every day.
Yeah.
It shouldn't take the month of June for everybody to feel like they're welcomed. What about the other 11 months out of the year? Are they not welcome? Like, do we not care about them?
It's pretty fried, but I think that goes further into the categorizing of people and leaving people in their own category, not letting people feel all inclusive, instead of making them feel inclusive to their own separate categories. Keeps people divided. It's definitely a control tactic, in my opinion. Just also fried.
Or what's that saying? Like, the reasons why we have months and weeks like this is because it's not valued enough. So then why are we constantly still doing it? You have Teachers Week, Nurses Week, Doctors Day, Veterans Day, Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of July, all these celebrations. But realistically, as an American society, all it does is just give us reasons to drink and not actually do anything. Like, nobody's actually putting in any work. I mean, there's the people out there that are, and they know who they are, but the majority are the ones out here celebrating, pretending like they did something for someone when they're just kicking back on their couch, can make a little post on social media and feel like they did something with their life.
Like that long weekend we got on Memorial Day. Shout out Kamala.
Yeah, like the long weekend we got, but then went and posted something about it. So, I mean, I guess you can't really get mad, but at least she said something, because you had people out there that didn't even acknowledge what it was for, except I'm on my grill, I'm in my backyard with my family, and we're just kicking back drinks. But you don't even realize what you got because it's so simple.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I definitely think to some degree it's nice to have a day or some sort of spotlight on certain issues or certain types of people, or whatever it may be, but like you were saying, Pride Month, LGBTQ as a whole, they're in the shadow. Those other 11 months, no one cares, no one talks about it. It's just kind of weird. It's like we pick 1 month out of the year to sell a pride flag in our stores, to talk about pride, to talk about how people should be accepted no matter what, when it should be year round. It shouldn't be like a fad. It shouldn't be something you pick up.
Yeah.
Same with mental health.
Almost like how we had the NFL player who just came out during Pride Month.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's a little strange that he chose Pride Month, all the times of years to come out, but he's being celebrated because it's more accepted now in this world. But when Michael Sam did it 7 years ago,
he was crucified. He was absolutely crucified. But then that's also, you kind of can't fault him all the way, because that's what society kind of did to make him say, hey, I'm gay during, Gay People's Month. Like, can't really fault him all the way. He just feels more included. But that's because of the societal categories, the societal, structures that government shit is put into place. It's just fried. They make you feel special a week, a day, a month. The rest of the year, you're chopped liver.
Yeah, I mean, think if he did that right at the start of the NFL season, or if he gets hurt and he says something like that, is the same reaction given to him, or do they crucify him like they did?
Probably crucify him. Michael Sam being crucified was probably one of the most horrid things to see from football fans. I remember seeing some nasty things about that dude, and he was raw. He was a good player. He was a beast. Yeah. Big dude.
People were like, oh, he's not good enough. All right, for those of you that don't know, Michael Sam was Defensive Player of the Year in the SEC, playing for Missouri,
which is one of the best defensive conferences, easily.
But he wasn't good enough to play. But had he not said that, is he a 3rd round pick? Is he a 2nd round pick? Hell, is he even a 1st round pick? Did someone take a shot on him to play? But, oh, I'm gay, and now all of a sudden he can't play. And, since we're talking about this men's mental health, I mean, what do you think that did for his mental health? Especially now to see a player be so accepted to it, but, they shunned him.
I wonder how that dude's feeling now. I wonder how Michael Sam feels about that. It's just kind of, it's good that as a society we're moving forward in a sense, but it's because of all the pressures to accept everybody and make everybody feel special that has happened in these past few years. 2017, I graduated high school. And, not to be, negative, but if you came out as gay, you were crucified in 2017. It was a completely different time. 10 years before that,
10 years before that. So we are moving forward in a way. But guys like Colin Kaepernick, guys like, Michael Sam, trying to be those forerunners, trying to make those changes, especially in the sports world, are literally like left in the dust. Nobody cares.
I mean, also think of right now, like, you got big time athletes who, one, I think part of the problem is too many people idolize athletes. Like, it's okay to look up to them as role models, but to live or die by everything that they say, you should definitely rethink some of the things that, like, you're doing for yourself. And we're trying to blame everything on mental health now. Like, if everything's mental health, nothing's mental health. Like, you can't have it both ways. Like, you can't be good and just be this star, and then all of a sudden you have a bad night or a bad game and all mental health. No, you didn't have mental health last night when you were going off, but all of a sudden you're playing bad, so it's mental health now.
You remember when Andrew Luck was like, yeah, bro, I'm done. I mean, not just physically, because he was completely beat to shit. But imagine mentally what that does to a man. And for him to have to stand in the spotlight and know that everybody wants him to be a certain way, act a certain way. Sports are definitely probably like one of the biggest industries where men's mental health is completely overlooked. Dude, I remember watching, it was either Undisputed or it was one of those shows, SportsCenter or ESPN. And the dude literally said, you're not allowed to have like mental health issues. You're the captain. You're the leader of your team. Like, what? Dude, he's still a human being.
It was on Dak Prescott after he, like...
Yeah, Dak Prescott. That's exactly what it was. Yeah, I remember that. Dude, I was so furious listening to him say that. I could not believe what that dude was saying. And his like how strongly he felt about it. Like, he just had no give. He was just like, yeah, he's not allowed to be depressed. He makes money and he leads a team.
Like, I get it. Like, you want your star players to play and everything. I mean, look right now. The Philadelphia 76ers just lost, and everybody's out here just burning Ben Simmons to the cross because of his poor free throw shooting and him not wanting to work on his game. And then we're going to be like, oh, well, what about his mental health? No, you didn't talk about his mental health when he was an all-star, when he was an all-defensive player. We weren't talking about his mental health then. Don't bring it up now because he was playing like crap. Like, just call it for what it is. He's a bad player that needs to go fix some shooting, and everybody's going to leave him alone. Lonzo Ball did it, so why can't he do it? But we're going to blame mental health. So at what point is it, hey, a player actually has mental health, and we fry him for it, and then a player doesn't say it, but we give him that out? So that's like trying to have it both ways. Like, for one player, it wasn't accepted, but we made it an exception for another, and nobody even realizes that because we're so caught up in the narratives and the headlines and everything else in the sports world, and people try to revolve their own life around sports that sometimes they get it intertwined with what reality actually is, living this like fake life that they see on television for the entertainment value. And I feel like that's where everything's starting to go down. Like, if that dude wasn't there and that excuse wasn't given, how would people really feel about mental health still? Would it still be the same?
I mean, I think it's more so like a fad. It's more so like you said, sometimes it's, sometimes it is someone's a quick outlet. They're like, yeah, bro, experiencing a little bit of the depression. But then you got athletes like K-Love. I love K-Love. Genuine dude. Took time off to literally work on himself, came out, said, I have these issues, like, I'm just not happy. Money is not what completes a human, makes a human feel whole. I know that personally from things I've been through. Had to figure some things out. But it's weird being a man not even just, men in sports, obviously, men everywhere. Men everywhere feel this like obligation to walk a certain way, talk a certain way, carry yourself a certain way, no matter what job you do, no matter how many people you know, how much money you make, whatever your situation may be, you are still a man. So to have a month or week where you're like, yeah, mental health matters for men, like we support you, it's kind of a slap in the face. It's like, where are you the other 355 days of the week or the year? Because like a lot of men could use that. And me, I'm a big advocate, and like I said, like getting help, talking to people, talking to yourself, writing it down, whatever you got to do, find an outlet. But men are not allowed to feel like they need an outlet, and that's the real problem.
Yeah, I mean, the whole notion that you have to be strong all the time, can't shed tears, pretty much have to have no emotion for almost anything that happens, and just pretty much put your head down and keep driving through it, is probably where we make the biggest mistakes. I mean, I've seen it enough for myself to know, like, people just need the help, but society's put such this negativity on men seeking mental health treatment that they're almost like shunned in a way, or viewed as weak, or telling them, oh, why don't you just man up? And I don't really tell people that anymore, because I know that person could go home and that could be it. Like, but genuinely acting like you care and like trying to assist them in whatever it is that they possibly might need is more what everyone needs, not just men. I mean, you have women included, you have pretty much any human being, because you just never know what someone's going through. I mean, you got a man that, might be going through a tough time trying to come out or trying to decide what he's trying to do. I mean, hell, a decision that we think might be simple could be very hard for somebody else and can cause them a complete breakdown. But we like to pick and choose when we're gonna shun somebody or we're gonna celebrate somebody. Like you brought up K-Love. Well, Naomi Osaka did the same thing, and the media world killed her. I mean, literally made it like, oh, how could you be so selfish? But they didn't even get the gist of what was going on, that she had already talked about it before she even went and played. And then she was like, you know what, I'm just not going to play. And it threw everybody off by surprise. And then they're like, oh man, like she's the world's number 2 player. Like, what are we going to do? And then she pulls out of Wimbledon and everybody's just like, yo, oh God, like we're scrambling here. We don't know what to do. She said she's going to play in the Olympics. So we're going to go quite a period of time without seeing the second ranked best player in the world play a tennis match. And I blame basically the media for doing that, because they didn't agree with her mental health stance and said she was copping out.
Well, I think it kind of gained popularity around when Bruce Jenner transitioned. I remember the speech. What was it? She got the award for, what was it, like courageous person or some shit, or brave person, and like was talking about mental health. And like ever since then, I feel like there's like literally been like a movement, but it's not. I just feel like a large level of like fake to it. There's a lot of people that misconstrue or use it as an excuse, which I've experienced some pretty large levels of depression, and I'm not the spokesperson on it, but a lot of people will use it as an excuse because of the fad, because of the hashtag, and that's what has caused, I feel like, the media to either be completely with you or completely fucking bash you. just whatever they think of this situation, whatever's going to read headlines. And, obviously, race has always got a lot to deal with it. K-Love being a very successful, normal looking fucking white man. And then Dak Prescott being a successful black man. Expected to carry yourself differently. And that's even more sad than, his mental health being denied, being unauthorized as, an excuse to some level, or for him to have a reason. Not like he should even need a reason. If he says he's not okay, how the fuck are we supposed to tell him he's not okay? Just weird.
Yeah, like nobody out here is a doctor or anything like that, but we sure love to claim at the beginning, right before we go after somebody for their mental health, like, oh, well, we're not doctors, but we're just saying this. No, don't say anything. Like exactly what you said when you started your bit. You're not a doctor, so who are you to determine who has mental health and who doesn't?
Not only that,
sure, people might use it as excuses, but at the same time, you're going to go ask every single person whether or not they're telling the truth? I doubt you are. You're just going to have to agree with whatever it is that they're saying and kind of go along with it until it's proven that that's not true.
Yeah. But to add to that, when you say doctors, there's really not any super definitive test or science that you can look at someone and be like, yeah, like you're this % depressed and you have this % of anxiety, or, whatever it may be. And I feel like that is kind of one of the harder parts of it as well, and why it's so like new and being more talked about it, because they are doing a lot more research, and like with technology came a lot of anxiety. People were constantly checking socials. People were constantly wondering what people were talking about, what they're talking about them, how they think about them. When you post a picture, you check it every 5 minutes. How many likes did it have? How many people are liking it? Who's liking it? When are they liking it? How fast? Do they have my post notifications on? Just all this shit that came with, the big wave of technology. And me being younger, dude, going to school and seeing, like, when I got into 8th grade and I got a cell phone, how much it changed every single person in my school of 400. Pretty wild.
I mean, to stay with like the whole athletes thing, I mean, look at the movie Concussion.
Fantastic movie.
Look at the concussions across the NFL. I mean, hell, look at some of the shit that you see in college football. I've seen dudes get literally their head knocked off, basically, and they'll go trot right back out there. But in the NFL, you can't do that. You have to get checked. Like, there's so many discrepancies and differences, and like that could be the start right there of you going down a wrong path because of mental health, because your skull's been rocked in too many times and your brain's not developing at the same rate that it's supposed to anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's been getting bounced around a bunch of times. I mean, the whole Aaron Hernandez documentary on Netflix, where they showed at the end like what a person his age brain would have looked like and what his brain did look like, probably should have put it in perspective that that dude was not all the way there, but like
definitely not.
But like, it was cool that we were making fun of him, and then he died, and then it wasn't funny anymore.
Yeah.
Like all these athletes that say something about mental health or end up killing themselves or struggling, and we're just like, yeah, that's pretty funny until it's not funny anymore. I mean, a big one, Delonte West. We're talking about a dude that made millions of dollars in the NBA, living on the streets because his mental health is so out there. Yeah, he finally got some assistance to hopefully turn his life around, but like, at what point is the joke not a joke anymore when we start taking people seriously for what it is? Is it when they're like a Delonte West, they're out in the streets, or worse
when it's there's no more chances, when like it's too late. That's when people are like, oh, yo, we're sorry, we're here to help. It's not like during the action. It's not. See, it could all be fixed if, no matter you think someone is okay or they aren't okay, if you just show a little more love instead of blasting them in the media because they said they need, a month off, a week off, a year off, they're retiring early. If they say they're not okay and you're not that person, or you're not that person's family, or you're not that person's, biggest confidant, best friend, show them a little love about it. Whatever it may be. If someone is looking for a rise in like your reaction, or looking for you to blast them for, whatever reason, whatever publicity reason, if you just show them a little love, a little pat on the back, be like, hey bro, completely understand, we've all been there, I feel like the entire narrative would be completely different.
Or if we didn't have to feel so insecure about it
and so wrong.
Yeah, like if I could just be like, yeah, I'm seeking mental health treatment currently. If I told somebody that and continued to do what I was doing,
it almost makes people be like, oh well, I wonder what's wrong with him, or I wonder what happened to him. Like, nobody's like, okay bro, well, you got this, like, good for you for getting help. There is people that say that, but it's not the masses. The masses would be like, do you have PTSD? Are you anxious? Why are you anxious? Did your parents hit you? Did you have bad experiences growing up? Are you currently in a bad situation at work? Like, do you have a bad situation at home? Are you getting beat by your wife or some weird shit? Like, people just always want to assume and always want to know what's going on. They can't just accept, hey, somebody might not be okay, and that's okay to not be okay.
Yeah, people can't take it at face value. They always gotta be in the know, and that's part of the reason too, until it becomes acceptable to just say it and not have people in the know about. I mean, like, that's a very personal thing. I mean, if you go to a funeral, the first thing's not gonna be, well, how'd they die?
Yeah.
Like, that's not what you're gonna ask them.
No.
So, like, when it comes to mental health, why is the first thing to be like, what's wrong? Do you want to know what's wrong because you genuinely care, or do you want to know what's wrong because you're about to judge? It's usually one of the two, and usually it's more of the latter. We're going to judge you because we think that you're either crazy or struggling with something, or we're going to tell you to get over it and move on.
Yeah. And that's another thing when people say, what's wrong with them? That word wrong, there's nothing wrong with you. You know how many fucking people experience some type of mental health issues? Not everybody's going to act on it or talk about it, but everybody feels some type of sadness or some level of anxiety and depression. And like I was saying, especially in this society that we have, like, it's completely unavoidable almost. But to say what's wrong, or how did that happen, or, just somewhere along those lines, like, one, it's not your business, and two, you just told that person that they are not normal. Because I've felt that, and that's like, dude, that's the worst thing you can do, is just feel like you're not normal, when in reality, like, you're completely normal. If anything, you're more than normal for accepting it.
What is it? They say the hardest part about a problem is admitting that you have one.
Yeah.
But we shun people when they admit that they have one, to say like they're lunatics or anything else, or like there's a breakdown that they're struggling to adapt, or whatever it might be. But like, instead of trying to uplift that person, and I'm not saying you gotta go through a parade or anything like that, but to shun them or make them feel bad for their choice to get better. I mean, we talk about, let's stop the suicides, let's stop the mass shootings and everything. Well, I bet a lot of those probably deep down deal with mental health, but we're just not ready as a society to accept that that's actually an issue and continue on with it. We're just gonna leave it for what it is and then be like, yeah, whatever, like, no, they're just crazy. Well, no, they're not. Why don't you trace back everything that happened? I don't believe somebody just wakes up one day and they're like, hey, let me get a 9mm and blow my head open. Or
It's definitely preemptive, and a lot of reasons add up to those
or let me go
situations.
get an AR and spray down people. Like, nobody's just waking up doing that. This isn't, GTA or
Yeah.
Saints Row or anything where you're just killing mobs of people and you can just go to sleep at the end of it. Like, these are real lives that people are messing with, and you might not even know that you bothered somebody, and that could be why they're not telling you, like, this is why I'm seeking mental health treatment. I mean, people forget, like, there's this thing called HIPAA where I don't have to tell you anything, and you really shouldn't be asking me anything unless I'm open to telling you what's going on. Like, that's basically between me and my team of doctors and
Whatever care providers.
and whatever other personnel that's in my group that need to know, because we always talk about these groups that people have and who knows what and who's going to get what out of who. Like, if you can tell your group and they're going to tell everybody, chances are they probably shouldn't be in your group anymore, because I'm sure you wouldn't want that to get out. But I'm also sure there's things that they've told you that they wouldn't want to get out. So also shame on that person for sharing something so personal like that. But
If you're leaning on somebody, they should be able to lean on you back and have that level of trust, definitely. But I think one of the things that really irks me too is, to some level, the whole quote unquote bullying in schools. When I was in middle school, bro, I got picked on every single day. I was a nerdy looking kid, out of shape, wore glasses, had greasy long hair. Saddest it is, I got made fun of for not having a mom. Just like, dude, kids will pick on you for anything. And for the suicide rates and everything else to be going up, in the recent years for kids and young adults, and them to link it to, specifically bullying. If we stop bullying, we'll end the mental health issues in kids. Well, to a certain extent, some of that may be true. I feel like it's more so based on how you're raised and the ideologies that you have around what's okay and what's not okay. You're a father of two sons. I'm sure as Greg gets older, you're gonna, tease him a little bit. You're gonna horse around. He's gonna shoot some shots at you. You're gonna shoot some shots back. I know exactly how you are. Me and you go at it sometimes. It's just like kind of like a brotherly thing. But at the same time, I feel like if you raise your kid to know where that barrier is, and if you have a relationship with someone, to know what to listen to, who to listen to, how much of the information that you're taking in that a kid might be talking about you, or a kid might be making fun of you for, that whole bullying thing could be not eliminated by any means, because kids are going to be kids 1,000% of the time. You're never going to be able to control them with how they think and talk. Kids talk out their ass. Dude, they literally say everything on their mind. You'll never find someone who lies the least like a child. But I just mean, if you raise them in an environment where talking about their feelings is okay, and to accept that everybody's going to have an opinion, but that's not your reality, and to always take what people say and choose to let it go out the other ear or not. Those types of things could make a huge difference because, everything that happens in your early adulthood comes from when you were a kid. Simple.
Yeah, I definitely think the bullying for sure, and people don't even realize like that bullying that you incurred as a kid. I mean, that can still plague you as an adult, especially if you still live in the same neighborhood or you still see the same people that
definitely
bullied you and pretend like they're still your friends and everything. They're really not your friends. They never were your friends. But this whole try hard society to fit into some peer group that really doesn't care about you is also one that's causing a strain on people's mental health. Like, oh, why don't they like me? I'm doing all this stuff with them and they still continue not to notice me or acknowledge me. I mean, it's wherever you go. I mean, you can run into this issue, and yeah, like you're a dad too now, and like you're gonna start to see as your son gets older, like raising kids is something that can strain you mentally too. I mean, raising newborns, the crying, the lack of sleep and everything, that can put a strain on you, and people take it for such granted that it's like not a big deal. But like, is it because we're so afraid that like, oh, you're just weak, you shouldn't be a parent if you can't handle it? Or no, not everybody's perfect, so there's no perfect parents out there. And if there are perfect parents out there, please come see me, because I would love to have a word with you.
You have the magic answers. We would love to know.
But I know that's not true. So like, even parents, like we say it all the time, it takes a village to raise kids. Like, it's not a one person job, it's not a 2-person job, and kudos to the people that are able to do that. But I'm sure that caused some type of strain at some point on them, wondering where anything was coming from, wondering how they were going to get to this, to do that. I mean, you see it all the time in sports, single moms with, their star athlete kids, and like how the star athletes shower their moms and everything that they can, because they're the ones that they want to give back to after everything that they did for them. And like, I think the
struggles they endured.
I think that's great that like they can finally like rest. But what about those moms that don't have that success story, that are still living that kind of life? What about those dads that are living that kind of life? Kids that are in that kind of lifestyle. I mean, we want to raise all this awareness and everything, but like at the end of the day, what are we truly doing to help? Like, anybody can make a post on social media, that's easy, but are you out here in your local communities doing something? Are you trying to make your community better? Heck, are you trying to do anything for yourself? And people are like, oh, I make a donation. And I just don't believe throwing money at a problem fixes a problem. Like, you don't find a solution to a problem by creating another problem. And if you think money's the solution, you're just creating another problem.
Yeah, and it shouldn't. Another thing, like, just because you donate to a charity or you did a drive to raise money for mental health awareness, or you're donating to a foundation, like, that doesn't mean you've necessarily helped. I mean, yeah, you might have maybe funded an institution for people to go to, or for someone to go see a doctor for free. But are you doing small things instead of, going on Twitter and seeing people bashing an athlete or an artist because they came out with a controversial song? Instead of tweeting your opinions or posting on Facebook about how much you hate this situation, or something about a political group, or just voicing your opinion when it's not positive, when it's completely negative, when it's completely an attack. Are you going to refrain from doing those things when you go out in public and some girl is dressed ugly to you, or some dude looks like a fucking goof? Are you gonna go up to them or talk about them behind their back, and that gets back to them, and they're like, oh well, people don't like me, people think I look ugly. Like, just those things add up. And to even speak it out into the universe, obviously everybody's got their demons and everybody's gonna think some fucked up shit. We don't say probably 99% of the fucked up shit that we think. Everybody, has some type of demon that's in their head. But are you gonna put it out there? Because what you put out comes back, whether it's for you or someone else. And I'm a firm believer in that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't want to accept something, so they won't ever verbally say it out loud. And like, when I start seeing people go down that path, I'm like, yo, how about you stop and say that out loud? Because I guarantee you, once you say it out loud, you're going to think about it a lot harder, because you just put that out there. You confirmed something. Like, a lot of times you can have the thoughts in your head and be like, oh yeah, they're just thoughts. But if you verbally say that thought out loud, you're going to be like, oh man, like, I actually kind of believe this now because I'm actually saying it. A lot of people you'll run into, they'll refuse to say something out loud because they don't want to accept that reality. They want to keep living into this fantasy world. I mean, we watched today with somebody, we don't have to name them, but we watched them get tangled up in their words. And I was like, go ahead, say it out loud. And they just changed it completely, because it's like, you don't want to have that acceptance that you now know is wrong, said by yourself.
You ever read the four agreements?
No.
Really, really good book. It's not a hard read, honestly. It's not a very long book. Me and Rachel read it. Really, really good book. If you haven't listened to it or read it, I'm sure you can find a podcast on it or some shit. But basically, like, these 4 rules, completely rewriting like the rules of your life, your roadmap to life. And one of the rules is be impeccable with your word, because your word is your truth. So like, if you're sitting here every day being negative, which we all struggle with. Rachel checked me on it earlier, which goes back to my first point. If you have a support system, life is a lot easier. I know some people may feel alone, but you always have somebody you can go to. And if you don't, counseling, there's numbers you can call for free, whatever. But just being impeccable with your word means, like, if I fucking say I failed today, I failed. Instead, I should say I learned how to fail today. I learned how not to do that task. Instead of feeling and speaking out loud that you're a failure or you're a loser, build yourself up. And that goes back to, I wanted to say this earlier, like, with the whole societal categories or thing I said earlier. If we as a society could place a bigger emphasis on being in your own category and focusing on your own category and being yourself instead of being a fucking groupie. If I could focus more on being Dakota and learning how to be Dakota and hone skills that Dakota can do and be as strong as Dakota can be, instead of trying to be, the next best athlete only, or being the next best actress or actor only, or being the next artist that's up and coming only, or instead of focusing 1,000% on being the best accountant in my firm. If you don't set those standards, or if you don't declare that you're that person, when in reality you're yourself, and that should be okay, and doing the best that you can possibly do. If that were normalized, I feel like a lot of it would be better too as well.
I think a lot of times emotions are brought into the decisions that are made and how people act. Like, when we talk about this, mental health, and especially men's mental health, and how emotional some people get about it. Like, if you came in without your emotions involved and were objective about the situation, would you still feel the same way? Like, if you had some objectivity to be like, I'm not sure what that guy's going through, or what that girl's going through, or what that person's going through, but maybe they just need some assistance. Like, would that change your view on how you're looking at them versus that person's just weak? Now, do you think they're weak because you're mad because it bothers you? Are you, upset? There's some reason why that this is triggering you. It's because your emotions are behind it. But if you drop those emotions off and you start looking at things, and it's very tough. Like, I tell Lillian this all the time. Like, it's an easy thing to say, but it's very, very hard to do. To have objectivity and a lot of stuff that you do and leave your emotions, because when emotions get involved, it gets messy. So if you just don't have emotions, you're going to be a lot more coherent to make the correct decisions on things, and to not say things truly based off of how you feel. You're going to kind of more think about that person's perspective, or just multiple other perspectives in general. And if that person can be objective too, you might actually get somewhere in a conversation, rather than them feeling like you just tore them down and getting more sad, or your feelings get hurt because you feel like you're not being heard, or that person hurt you for the way that they responded back. I mean, it could be a handful of different things, but if you put the emotions to the side, you can probably get through to people easier, because you'll have more relatability. You'll be able to understand better than going into a conversation, have a predetermined outcome. That's like, hey, you're telling me something, but I'm like only halfway listening because I've already predetermined what you're going to tell me. And then I come back and say something to you, and you'll be like, dude, did you even listen to anything I just said? And
Just
be like,
dumb.
yeah, which is extremely dumb. Like,
Super dumb.
but people do it all the time. People always have predetermined outcomes to the conversations before they even happen, because people aren't actually listening. They just want to get their point out there, or they get emotional because they're triggered by some topic. And I mean, it could be anything. It could be talking about, freaking politics, religion.
Politics is a big one. Religion is a big one.
Mental health, athletes, who and who shouldn't have opinions. I mean, you name it, and people are going to find some reason why it makes them upset.
Yeah, always. Everybody's always looking for a reason to feel alive, to feel a purpose, and some people just can't find that purpose on their own. So they prey on other people's issues or circumstances, and that's sad, to be honest. But I think a large part of that is being more empathetic with the objectivity. So putting yourself in their shoes. If this happened to me, how would I feel right now? If I were in their shoes and my wife just threw me out and I'm not being able to see my kid, would I look presentable at my job right now? Like, would I be in a good mental stable position to perform well at whatever task I'm doing, or vice versa? Whatever example you want to give, put yourself in those shoes. How would you react? How would you feel? That should be taught more. Really should. I remember in middle school, in physical education class, we had for 1 year a PE teacher who came out as a lesbian, come from a very small town. And I only remember her from the 1 year. Super sweet, but we learned, and we had like a couple days on the difference between being an empath and it's like the opposite of empath. I didn't get a very good education, clearly, but being an empath stuck with me, and I've always felt empathetic to literally anyone. Doesn't matter who they are, where they come from. If if I can feel your energy and basically how you feel about a situation through you talking about it or your presence, like, I get you. You don't have to say anything. Like, I get it. You don't have to explain it to me. And like I said, I feel like if that were taught, or if that were brought awareness to, that could change a lot of people's perspective as well. Because, like, I'm sure you understand. I see it in my grandparents. Love them to death, but there's a lot of things where their generation did not have empathy towards. They just are hard nosed, have a certain set of rules. If whatever you feel or say or do doesn't abide or fall within those rules, then, to an extent, you're wrong. They've always been very supportive of me and helpful and just wanted me to be happy no matter what. But that generation, 99% of them are not like that. Empathy and having feelings of any sort was very frowned upon. So it is nice, that times are changing about all that. But it's almost like a shot in the foot to progress. And then, like we've been saying, spotlight it for a certain period of time. And then every other time of the year, if an athlete comes out as gay, or Dak Prescott says, hey, bro, I'm not okay. I can't lead this ship right now because I have these issues. Then it's a different narrative. It can't just be 1 week, 1 month. It can't just be one day. Same with Memorial Day, which I'm sure you can feel a little bit more strong about than I can. Just simple little things like that, I feel, is what separates us from probably a way better society to live in.
Well, also, if you look at how emotions are treated when people show them, for instance, if I'm angered and I'm screaming and yelling, nobody cares what I'm screaming and yelling about. They get no care whatsoever. They care more about the person that's getting yelled at.
Care more about the receiving end and why they're receiving it.
But you flip that to, if I was crying, they're going to come find out why I was crying, which I think is the wrong answer, that we only want ever one side of the story that we feel bad about. Like, no one ever cares about the angry person.
They only want to hear from the hurt.
Yeah. Well, why doesn't anybody ever want to know what led to, because you might be surprised what led to that situation to begin with. Because, like, and this can just be like a hypothetical thing, like, I'm angry because my wife just blew all the money and now we can't pay for our kids to do anything. We can't live in our house. We're actually losing our house because she gambled it away or something wild, and I'm yelling for that. But she's on the curb crying. People are going to tend more to her, and she could literally make up whatever she wants.
Yeah.
Or you flip it and I can be crying. They're going to view me as weak because, you're a man, you shouldn't be crying about anything. You should be able to get through anything. And it's like, you can't win. Like, either you're the bad guy because you're screaming and yelling, or you're the soft guy because you're in tears.
You're not allowed to be both.
No.
You're not allowed to compartmentalize in your own terms and be sad when you need to be sad. Like, sometimes, dude, you need to cry. I mean, fucking choose to have people see it. Whatever helps you feel best. But just society as a general needs to accept that men have emotions. Men have a feminine side. Like, men have softer, mental aspects that we just don't talk about, that we're pressured not to act on, not to show. Like, it's just weird because like dude, I'm really seeing it. So like, like you've been saying, motherly instincts. Like when Grayson's crying, the first person to want to pick him up, first person to want to help him, absolutely nothing to do with any lack of love that I have for that kid. Fucking love him. I would do anything for him in a heartbeat. But the woman is always the first to hold him. She's always the first to want to hold him, to want to see what's wrong. So to think that a man growing up with, a mother, or like my situation with my grandmother and my aunts, whoever you are, whatever motherly role you had, do you think that you're going to grow up with no feminine side? Like, really? You learn to love from your mom, from that female figure, whether it be a teacher and you were in a foster home, or a caseworker, whatever your situation is, there's always a female that you're going to look at and have that ideal love, like where those love instincts come from.
It's that welcoming feeling that
Yeah.
you're safe, that nothing's going to happen to you. Your mom or your grandmother or your aunt at the end of the day is going to take care of you, whatever that might be. They'll run through walls. Not to say like a dad isn't, or an uncle or a grandfather is not going to do that, but we in society have made it such a commonplace that, I don't care what kid you are, who you are, where you're from. If there's a baby crying and there is any mother present, they will do whatever it takes to probably quiet that kid.
Yep. And it's cool, what I'm going through with her and Grayson, because obviously I was a baby at that time, but just hearing how my situation was and growing up for the years, that I do remember without those like literal parents in my life, like seeing these huge differences, and not necessarily how easy things are, but how instinctive, with me and with her, and the differences. And then, being with her throughout the whole pregnancy, and being close with you and Lily, and seeing how Lillian was and how caring she is for them. It's cool to see. Like for me, I just love experiencing it myself, because in a way I never got to. It's pretty cool.
I mean, for me, it's crazy because obviously I was gone, and man, Lillian truly showed that she's a fighter and she'll do anything for those kids. I mean, to know somebody got a C-section, less than 24 hours later they were at home, is like pretty unheard of. But
Going to Target.
that motherly instinct in her was like, I'm not being away from either of my kids. Like, I'm going to figure this out. And it starts with me getting out of this bed and moving around. And obviously Lillian is an RN, so she knew better of what was going on and everything. But for her to even recognize, like, no, my kids need me, like, I gotta get out of here, like, that takes a complete another level of strength.
Speaking of the kids,
Yeah.
we have a slight interruption. But yeah, I think it all ties in to why men should feel okay, should be okay, but also why we shouldn't need fake like attention from it. It should be normal. It should really be normal, and it's kind of sad that it's not. We've obviously been scrolling through Instagram today, talking about it, seeing people's stories, posting about it, but they're also the same people that probably sit behind closed doors or in their little group of men, and or with their girlfriend talking about how weak this dude is, or how much this dude is being fake, or how poor this dude is, or this dude ain't got the freshest shoes on. Look how whack. It's probably the same people, and that's pretty upsetting.
Yeah, and that's why I always say, like, if I'm judging you based on your car that you drive, the way you dress, and everything else, I mean, that goes back to the very first thing, one of the very first things that you probably learned as a kid. Don't judge a book by its cover. And all we do now is just look at the cover page of people and look and be like, oh, they drive a Beamer, they drive a Benz, they wear Balenciagas, she's got a Birkin bag, she's rocking Louis, he's got Gucci, we got Supremes, like, and we just assume that that's their 100% life and they have that kind of lifestyle. And then you actually get close to these people and you roll up on their house and it looks like they haven't done dishes in 2 months.
Yeah.
They got the trash that hasn't been taken out in 6 weeks. The bed's not made. The house is a complete wreck and it's just run
living
down.
like a kid.
And they're living in an apartment and you're like, but that cover page is what drew you to them, because
The Instagram page
were led to believe that they had a lifestyle that they truly don't. But that's where I'm always just like, is this like something that's going on with them, like a mental health thing, or is this, failing to accept realization in society that, like, they're trying to impress the wrong people when they really truly can't take care of themselves?
Yeah, and I'm not going to dive into specifics, but, when I left, the place I was at, and the individual had texted me basically saying, how are you going to do this? How are you going to support yourself? Because I didn't have his help. And to me, I know this guy, he doesn't have any type of like love. Everything's money driven, and everything is not necessarily materialistic, but success driven. And when something doesn't perform or add up to his expectations, like, dude, I'm not kidding. Like, I feel bad for that person. I'm not mad at him. I had a lot of time to reflect on the situation. I could go back and forth all day about how, wrong I feel I was done. But at the end of the day, I can look at that dude, and no matter what he wants to say to me or no matter how he wants to feel about me, I know I have a lot more in my life that's worth more than what's in his life. And that's love. I have a lot of love, genuine friendships, connections, and that's worth more than any dollar amount. And that's also what makes me see through the bullshit on Instagram. It's like, if you take a step back and you think about how those people live day to day, like you were saying, no fucking trash out, no dishes done, like just shit like that, you feel bad for them. It's not that you should feel good, that you're clean, or that you don't spend all your money on stupid pairs of shoes and a stupid purse. Whatever. You're allowed to do whatever you want with your money. It's just the fact that, like, you're compensating for something.
Yeah, we have these expectations on people. If you don't look a certain way, act a certain way, be a certain way, you can't hang out with us. Like for me, for instance, I'm not one that wears these clothes to dress up in. I don't wear suits. I don't wear khaki. Like, I don't do that kind of stuff. I don't wear collared shirts, and people get offended by it. And it's just like, listen, dude, I wear sweat shorts and a t-shirt and a hoodie. Like, if
that you do
rocking with that, like, I'm wearing that year round. Like, it doesn't matter. But that's what's comfortable for me, because I'm not putting out an image. Yeah, I like to have nice things and I like to take care of my family, and we like to have nice things.
It's one thing to, like you said earlier, if you wanna buy a expensive purse, or you want really 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 want to own a pair of Balenciagas or a pair of Louis, it's cool, bro. First question is, can you afford it 3 times in full? I'm not talking credit. I'm talking afford it. Because if not, you shouldn't buy it. And then my second question is, why do you want it? My only reasoning for it to ever be like truly okay is like, you're good with the first reason, but then also it's kind of like a representation of kind of accomplish some goals, almost like a reward. It should never just be like, oh goddamn, bro, I posted in my red Balenciagas yesterday, I gotta buy these new Louis to post in tomorrow. That's fried, bro. Why do you want that acceptance, and why do you want people to see that?
But I think it's like, it goes back to this, and this is something that I learned from someone in the military. We always think of two different sides of something. You have, like you said, rewards, and then we have consequences. Well, I've heard of rewards being good and bad. So not a consequence, but you get a bad reward. So you go get, that Benz that you wanted so bad,
For whatever reason.
but you bought it. But your Benz craps out on you about 2 years in. That turns into a bad reward. It was good when you first got it, but it slowly trended to bad. And now you're trying to figure out what to do next. But you're not going to talk about that because you don't want to portray that image that you did something bad, rewarded something bad, or these are your consequences, as people would say right now. You're going to somehow get rid of the vehicle and get a brand new one, but you're never going to explain what took place and why you got one. Like, we're always in this belief that, like, oh, they see me posting in this. Like, people do understand, like, you can probably go rent clothes and do things like they do for music videos and everything else, and rent cars. Like, yeah, dude, I could go to Enterprise and rent a Mustang tomorrow.
Bro, Rick Ross on that podcast with Brandon Marshall talking about how he owns like 15, 20 like luxury supercar type cars, just rents them out to rappers for music videos and shit. Like, dude, genius. But at the same time, those dudes are always gonna come back. They're always gonna want a fancy car. It's the standard. You can't shoot a music video unless you have money, cars, bad bitches.
But that dude used his money to get something that's now making him money.
Yes, that's another thing. Cars are a liability. Always. Doesn't matter. If you own a car, it is a liability.
And that's smart, but at the same time, like you said, they're going to come back and want to get it over and over. Yo, if you're doing it over and over, you might as well end up getting it at some point. Yeah. Why would you continuously keep doing this if this isn't what you want? Oh, because you still want to make people believe that you live this certain lifestyle. And we know plenty of people that pretend like they live a certain lifestyle that they don't.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like, but don't. My thing with that is, like, if you want to pretend like you live that lifestyle, that's fine. Go ahead. But if you come around me, don't expect me to pretend with you, because I'm not going to do that, because I know.
Yeah.
And I think it's just wrong for anybody to think that I have to cover for you because you're choosing to lead people on to a situation that's not true.
Yeah, like if one of those people came up to you and you were with your friends and they're like, yeah, bro, you see, I got the new pair of Jordans. And you're like, yeah, what about it? And they purposely say it in front of those people, so those people are like, oh, wow, he can afford the new Jordans. Or if they pull up in a new whip or a whip they rented for a day or whatever it may be. Or they're like, yeah, I posted a picture. I was down in Miami, had a Benz, had all the bitches just to look cool. And, that all ties back into the mental health aspect. And, like, how, like, me, like I said, I almost feel bad for people that feel they have to do those things to fit in or are hardwired to want to do those things to fit in. Because that's not a way to live. It's really not a way to live. Not at all.
No. And I mean, as we close this out, I just want people to just take a second to themselves and be like objective, not into your emotions, not into what other people think, but just for yourself, just ask yourself a couple questions. Are you all right? Are you sure you're all right? And if you're fine, then keep it moving. But before you try to impose that you can help somebody else, make sure that you've helped yourself already, because I feel like a lot of times we fall in this trap where we're like, yeah, I can help this person right now. Yeah, well, like, you helping that person, you forgot that, like, you yourself ain't doing so hot. So
yeah,
how you about to fix that? Because if you can't fix yourself, what are you doing trying to fix other people? And by no means am I perfect. I'm sure you would say you're not perfect.
Definitely not.
But
not even close.
At the end of the day, I love you like a brother, and
same.
I wouldn't let somebody harm you and your family, just as I feel like you wouldn't let somebody harm me and my family. And I think more people need to come to the realization of who's really in their corner, and maybe it takes something insane to happen. I always say it takes a life-changing event for people to realize who's truly in their corner. And if you've never experienced a life-changing event, then you might not ever know. And those fake people that you hang around and think that are your real friends are gonna at some point turn out not to be, when you're not living that lavish lifestyle that they choose to have or that they pretend to have, because you decide to grow up and start a family and move on and start doing things with your lives. Like, that's when you'll truly know, like, I don't go out here and try to make friends with just anybody. I also don't welcome just anybody into my home. But the people that I do welcome into my home, I welcome them with open arms, as if like they're family. I tell people when they come over, don't worry about bringing anything. Like, we got it, because family takes care of family. Like, you shouldn't feel like you need to bring something over somebody's house. Well, what's that going to do? Make me accept you, like you more because you brought something over my house? No. I mean, if it's something that you like for yourself, okay, go ahead. But like, if it's like your way of like, oh, these people are gonna like me because I did this, that's not what's gonna happen. That's what someone either A has been telling you to think and you're choosing to believe that, or B, you're just truly lost in what you feel like you need to do to be accepted. Most of the time, people are so caught up in trying to be these other people that they truly don't even know who they are until you start cutting things away.
Which feeds hard into the toughest mental battles you could have. Like, really hard. And, even if you don't have those people, like Marv said, just stay true to yourself, find yourself first. I took a lot of time to figure out who I was, what I want to do in life. Still haven't figured it all the way out, but I'm getting to a point where I know how I want to feel. So basically going through life, guiding my life based around what makes me feel okay. And if something doesn't feel you or make you feel okay, like, find a way to either A, make it better, or B, cut it out and start over. Either option's okay.
And if that doesn't work, you can always just listen to us too. That works. Like, put some comments out there for what we should discuss. We'll be glad to discuss those topics, and it'll be great.
Hell yeah. Always remember, ladies and gentlemen,
The truth hurts because people hate the truth.
Damn straight.